Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update.
Technology has become indispensable in our daily lives, from smartphones acting as the nucleus for all our digital activities, such as via social media platforms connecting us with the entire world, to apps that alter the way we access knowledge and information. However, the impact of technology extends beyond personal and entertainment realms. Technology can be leveraged upon to empower communities and create a positive influence. It contributes to enhancing education, empowering marginalized communities, improving access to healthcare, supporting sustainable development and constructing smarter cities, among other aspects. So I couldn't be happier to let you know that starting this week, we are introducing Good Tech, our brand new weekly segment where we take an inspiring look at innovative technology and ways it is used to drive impactful social change. Now, AI and automation are transforming the workforce at an unprecedented pace, bringing new opportunities and economic benefits. While AI can revolutionize industries, boost worker productivity, and improve job quality, its broad adoption presents challenges. The human impact of AI adoption is often overlooked. Not all communities are equipped with the resources to adapt to this change. How can companies, governments, and funders reduce AI's adverse, disproportionate risks while supporting its potential for transformative change? My guest today might have a few ideas. She's someone who has extensive work experience in various leadership roles in the development sector. She is Moutushi Sengupta, Chief of Capital Mobilization at AVPN, which is Asia's leading social investment network based in Singapore. AVPN is a leading ecosystem builder that moves capital towards impact. Moutushi, great to have you on our very first edition of Good Tech, a new segment focusing on technology for social good.
Thank you so much. Really, really excited to be here and to talk to you on this important issue.
Now, you work at the intersection of AI, society, and impact investing. And prior to joining AVPN, you've held leadership positions with several international institutions of development. And last year, I understand that AVPN, with the support of Google.org and the Asian Development Bank, launched a $15 million fund to equip Asia's workforce, specifically those from underserved communities, with essential AI knowledge and tools required for the evolving work landscape. How does this multi-million-dollar fund work?
Yes, we were privileged to get support from Google last year and ADB as knowledge partners to try this really, really interesting intervention, which is looking at supporting more than 500,000 beneficiaries across 8 target markets and another few in a more indirect way to see how we can support vulnerable population groups to access AI skills, which would actually get them to access the opportunities that AI has in a much more meaningful manner. So over the last few months, we've been really at work trying to find partners on the ground who can actually provide contextual and relevant training modules to these population groups so that they can engage much more positively.
Okay, I understand there's an open call to identify and select the nonprofit organizations, social enterprises, and workforce associations in Asia Pacific, but that's closed in January. So how are these partner organizations selected, and what type of organizations are eligible to apply for support?
Yeah, so we're looking for organizations which have a very strong community connect. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for organizations who have been present in their respective communities for a while, which are trusted by those communities, and which have the capacity to reach out to large numbers with offerings which can actually enable vulnerable population groups achieve a level of skill that can actually help them to engage with the job market much more meaningfully. To start with, we actually did a landscape study. And landscape study is actually helped us identify the population groups which are more vulnerable. And it very interestingly said that, while several of traditionally defined jobs may actually be downplayed as AI starts taking a stronger role in our society. There are many others which are actually going to become available as we move forward. And so we've actually got a listing of jobs which will be, much more in focus as we move forward. And AI is here. Is a huge opportunity by itself as well. So how do we enable this transition happen in a more inclusive and just fashion is what has been the driving principle for us in identifying partners on the ground. And we have received a really, really good level of response. And at the moment, there are 53 partners who have been identified who are going to be taking this forward.
And would you be at liberty to disclose some of these organizations?
Absolutely. The way this initiative is working is that we have a set of strategic partners, and then there are training partners who are going to be onboarded as such. The strategic partners are already in place. So we have, for instance, AI Singapore, we have got Anudip Foundation in India, we have got Wadwani AI in India, we have got Decoding in Indonesia. And for every country, there is a cohort of strategic partners that has come through and who are sort of leading the charge in that country in terms of identifying training partners and the beneficiaries. And we are actually working with them very closely to make that happen.
Moutushi, you mentioned earlier, vulnerable groups are most likely to face social barriers when it comes to navigating AI and new digital technologies. We're talking about women, the elderly, low-wage workers, rural communities, migrants, and disabled people as well. So what are some of the initiatives that you have designed to meaningfully provide support to people like these who need support most?
So most importantly, I think we need to figure out where these groups actually stay. And so the report, in fact, really helped us to understand where these cohorts are located as such, and then to figure out the best way to reach out to them. So we are trying out local language training. We are trying out ways by which we can actually reach out to these specific numbers, whether it's women, and what is contextually most relevant. So for instance, if there are, public institutions which are more capable of providing that training, can we tie up with them? Can we figure out ways by which we can actually make that process easier? We are also at a different level trying to work with the government to see how the policies can be made more inclusive, because the 500,000 that I mentioned earlier, it's a really drop in the ocean given the population groups that we are talking about. And finally, we strongly believe that the governments can play a much, much bigger role in making this much more accessible to the population groups. So we are working with the governments as well, and we are working with institutions like UNESCAP and some of the policy institutions to see how can we make the policy environment much more conducive for adoption.
And across Asia, momentum is building for digital upskilling. Industries are transforming faster than ever, driven by advancements in AI, automation, and digital tools. So what are the challenges you've come across? While there are training programs set up to help to train workers affected by AI and automation, are vulnerable groups likely to attend these trainings?
The way we are structured at the moment, yes and no. I think it is difficult to teach a different language of transacting to several people, and especially people who are not invested in, continued self-development and growth. They would find it really difficult. But it's also true that the way society is structured, certain population groups face the brunt of these changes much more than others. So, for instance, there's data which says that, the chances of a woman getting displaced from this entire process is 1.5 times higher than her male counterpart in terms of losing the job, with AI taking a larger role. So how do you actually ensure that, you make these trainings available in a context where the woman is also able to access that and start linking in? AI also throws up several opportunities, of remote working, of trying to do things which in some ways if the skills are in place, makes it easier for the lady of the house to actually start engaging with the larger job market if she is not able to go out to the workplace. So how do you make those opportunities available to the place individual is located as such? And that is the purpose of these trainings, which sort of enable them to take that first step in terms of getting into the job market. So that is where the entire curriculum has been driven towards. There are social psychological barriers as well, but that is why we are very keen to have training partners who understand the social context, the economic context, and can figure out ways of reaching out. So each of the training partners, for instance, we've been working with them to work out what could be a notional number that they can reach out to. So to keep this process as an ambitious goal for them as well.
Moutushi, wonderful efforts there. You mentioned earlier that there's a job list. So is that how you work, backwards to see what skills they might need for certain jobs?
Yes, to some extent with this particular intervention, because, it was really interesting to get that job list as such. And what we figured was that the most vulnerable jobs are the administrative jobs, the finance jobs, where the numbers of folks who are employed are fairly large. And so the curriculum has been designed to keeping that in mind, ensuring that, how do you actually enable this cohort of people to move to the next stage? How do they actually reach a point where they can start engaging with AI-driven modules and figure out what the job market is currently offering as such? How do they go beyond the concept of, AI is here to take our jobs away, to a position to say, yes, this is the next phase of my life? The curriculum itself is looking at it to an extent, but we are also expecting the training partners to provide that psychological support to say, yes, this is coming and, we'll help you tide over the waves.
Actually, I'm coming from a very practical point. I'm asking if there is a job guaranteed if they actually take up the training and upskilling.
So that's a very good question, Lynn. And ideally speaking, I think we should be actually looking at that. But what we are trying to do is to bridge that gap. We're not in a position to promise a job to every person who completes that set of modules as such. We definitely are trying to bridge that gap to say that, is this what job providers are looking for? And how can you actually create that pathway from completing that module to sort of presenting those resumes and presenting those beneficiaries and mapping them against the jobs which are going to become available. Several of our strategic partners are already in that space. They are trying to figure out how to build that bridge. But as you know, this is a very, very fast moving space. And some of the jobs that, we thought were available, 3 months back, probably you can see in the horizon may lose relevance. So how do you keep that process going in a way that no one is left behind? And how do you keep processes through which that whole access becomes an easy and enabling one?
Wow, sounds challenging indeed. Empowering communities and equipping them with new skills is important work. So what more can those in the development sector do to understand the unique challenges people face and help provide them with AI knowledge and tools needed for long-term professional success?
Absolutely. I would put AI revolution as really a global movement which will impact all our lives as such. And so how do we actually create the circumstances and environments where people start engaging with it much more on a positive basis in a meaningful manner? So in a way, I think the most important piece is that, how do we keep this process as a fair and inclusive process so that no one is left behind? And governments, as I had mentioned earlier, I think have a huge role to play. But beyond governments, I think corporates and philanthropy institutions also have a big role to play. To this, I think having some rules of the game to say that, we need to make sure that, people don't unnecessarily lose out their livelihoods.
Moutushi, you and I are both women. As we mark International Women's Day this weekend, how do you see AI impacting gender equity in the workforce? I hear that women make up about 30% of the AI workforce. So what sort of steps do you think can be taken to bridge this and ensure women are fully included in this transition?
That's a really good question, Lynn. A study that we did highlighted women as one of the more vulnerable groups who are likely to be disproportionately affected unless specific measures are taken as such. And so finding ways by which you can bring the women to the workplace, I think, is going to be key. It's actually reaching out to schools, to colleges, as well as, women who are already married, which is the situation in many of the countries that we work in, to actually help them engage with this AI revolution as such. This is a huge wave, and we have to figure out what are those spaces for intervention which can actually enable women to start engaging so that the equity issue is addressed. If we leave things to happen just the way they are, it's not going to help in any way. And also, I think the other part of this is that unless we are intentional about building the AI language in a much more equitable manner, the inequities that we currently see are just going to perpetuate. So how do you make the language, how do you make the responses much more gender responsive? That's the other area I think that we need to work on.
Thank you so much, Moutushi. You're doing very important work. I'm in awe and humbled, just talking to you. Thank you so much for your perspectives.
Thanks so much for enabling me to put my thoughts out there. Really happy.
And she is Moutushi Sengupta, Chief of Capital Mobilization at AVPN, which is Asia's leading social investment network based in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.